So hello and welcome everybody to our webinar here at Fronius International with the topic of Solar.creator, new features and new functions. So my name is Chris. I'm the one of the trainers here at Fronius International in the solar energy department, and I'm here during this webinar for you today and guiding you through the topic. And I also quickly wanted to add one organizational topic as well. I'm not alone. My colleague from the product management is here as well. So the product manager for this tool for the Solar.creator, and he's in the chat with me together. So if you have any questions related to this topic or also to Fronius in general, of course, you can use the chat function to send in your question. It's anonymous, and we will then try to answer as good and as quick as possible together, my colleague Thomas and me, during and after the webinar. So this is my request to you. If you have any questions, send them through. We will be happy to answer them. And also one quick note to the topics I want to show you today. So I'm on a live testing area today for you to show these new features. Within the next few days and weeks, this will be updated to the live session, and then you will be also able to test it out on your own and use those features and functions. So yeah, I would say let's get started. You can already see my screen, and as you can see, I'm already logged in to the Solar.creator. I have an empty account, so this would be a new customer, a new installer, for example. And now it's time for us to start a new project. So this is possible by clicking on this button. It already says start a new project, which I want to do right now. And we start with giving it a name, a project name, the last name of the customer, the location, any project name, basically. So this is mandatory. I just call it test and underline 2. Then there is some optional information you can give if you have it already, like the customer's name, phone number, company, and so on and so on. Then on the click on next, you are in the presets. Here you can choose which products, which components, which inverter sizes you want to have in your calculations. So is it residential or commercial? In my option today, I want to show you a residential setting. So I only select the residential topic here. Then I also want to show you some new features on the electric vehicle topic and the own pilot. So I select all of those. With a click on next, we are on format options that didn't change. I have to select the currency. For us, it's euros. Oh, sorry, not imperial, the metric system, and then the temperature in Celsius. And then we can hit the start button. Now we are same as before the update on 7 steps to our finished report. But before we go into the first one with the location, I quickly want to show you that you can change now a picture for a specific project. In order to do this, you can just click the 3 dots up top here and you can add an image. So for example, you can upload here an image from your folder. You can click here and I say, okay, this is the image I want to upload for this customer. This can be a picture you already did when you got to the customer site in order to check everything out or any standard procedure. And this has 2 main benefits, I would say. Basically, if you are in the overview where you have a list of all your projects, you have a visual way to order them to get to your correct project. And also in your final report, you also have a very nice picture in it, which the report you can send to the customer directly. So it gives it a personal note, basically. But now back to the main settings and the differences and updates. So in the location, nothing big has changed. We still have to set here a location by entering the project location here. For example, I want to say I'm here in Wels in our headquarters in Upper Austria, and here is the position I want to build up the system. And based on this location, as before, we have the solar irradiance. We can change that, increase, decrease, and also it gives us some grid parameters based on your location. So it only shows you, for example, in my place, the 3-phase inverters that are compatible or allowed to install in Austria. I can consider this, or I can ignore this, then all of the inverters would be shown. All right, so nothing major has changed there, but in the next step, step number 2, when we come to the consumption, we can already see something is happening there. We have a color. So the load, the consumption here is visualized in color, but that's not all of it. For example, we can now upload more than one load profiles. So this would be the first one. I can select the load profile. Accordingly, I can set the load in kilowatt hours per year. And then with the plus button on the right-hand side, I can say I want to add another load. And this is then visualized in a different color up top here. And in total, it just sums up all of these kilowatt hours per year and gives me a total electrical consumption. So I can also change, of course, the load profile, the second one I've added, or I can use the upload button beside that and say, maybe I have a CSV format from my existing smart meter, or maybe my grid supply has a kind of CS4 format of my energy consumption, which I can then bring into a format, CSV format. And those have to be values of at least 15 minutes over a period of 365 days. If I have this, I can upload it. In my case, I can show you how this looks like. So I have here test Lastprofil in German, the load profile. You can give it a name. For example, this would be a heat pump. You can give it a name and then you can click on upload profile. You can also, if you're not sure how this CSV format should look like, you can download a template and then fill this out. So in my case, I have already something uploaded. I can hit the button here, and don't worry, this takes a little bit of time, of course, because the tool has now has to upload roughly 30 to 35,000 values of the CSV format over those period of 365 days onto the server, into the project of yours. And then it looks like this. We have then a very specific way of your past, of the customer's past load consumption. Yeah, you would be able to change that. Of course, you can add here up to 5 loads in profile in total. And yeah, all of those would be summed up and gives you then the electricity consumption in total. The other thing right beside that, the need for heating is a different value, which I can show you down below when we come to the hot water and heating. So this hasn't changed actually. This was already in the previous version of Solar.creator. You can change the persons in the household. You can select the building type. So for example, I select here, this building was built in year 2000 or something like this. You can select the primary heating system. Let's say, okay, geothermal heating pump, that's fine for us. And based on those values, we have then the need for heating. Then we come to another topic, which is new, the electric vehicle. So that's not actually something new, but now you can add more than one electric vehicles. So you can say, okay, the first one I select here, it's a Volkswagen ID3 with a already set value for consumption, battery capacity, charging power, and so on and so on. And now you can also see a charging profile. I want to set here the partly home office, for example, which gives me an already defined charging profile, which I can customize if I want. I can say, okay, on Thursday, there is no charging in the morning, but we can charge from midday. So that's very easy to do by just clicking on it. You can also change the values for kilometers, driving distance per day. Here we have 13 kilometers and so on and so on. And now you can say with the 3 dots on top here, I want to duplicate that. Then I have the second car as well as a Volkswagen ID3, or you can just say, I want to add an electric vehicle with the button down below. Now the second one is a Kia, for example. You can choose the model. Yeah, which also gives me a certain consumption, battery capacity, and charging value. And again, you can set a charging profile. So let's say working full time, that's perfectly fine. And also here you would be able to change the second profile of this car. Yeah, you would be able to do a third car. Let's just keep it with 2 cars for our example right now, and we can click on next. And also please be aware that of course these values for the yearly mileage and also the calculated energy that is needed comes into play up top here in the electrical consumption. So this is already included into this one. Yeah, then on next, we come to the topic of PV arrays. And here we have a very cool new feature, in my opinion, the coolest one yet, the 2D option. It is now optional before you go into the PV arrays and the full calculation of your PV generator. You can choose to do a visual roof planning. So based on the location of yours, you can then just click on this button here and you jump directly into your location that you have set. We can scroll out a little bit to see a little bit better. And I will just go to our neighbors here, the train station of our position here in Belz. And let's just say that's our roof, our customer roof, and we want to do a quick test what's possible to bring up there in terms of module numbers. And it's very easy to do. The first topic is, okay, I can click on next here, draw module area. Okay, with a left mouse click, you can then start with pinning the corners. So number 3 and number 4. Then we have our area here where I want to set my modules. I can click on next. It's asking me, okay, is it a pitched roof or a flat roof? Pitched roof it is in our case, and mark the lower edge of the roof, the edge. Okay, with a simple click on this button here, you can then rotate it. And in my case, this at the very bottom here is my lower edge of the roof. And the reason why we need to set this is because based on those yellow line, this is the reference for the tool. And on this line, there is then the module. So the corner of the module will be placed on this corner or on this line. Okay, we are set and ready to go to click next, where we have to do the module settings. Of course, different modules have different sizes, so we need to know exactly what's going on there. So I select a simple module, let's say with 380 watt peak, mono half cut, that's perfectly fine. The inclination, of course, needs to be known as well, at least roughly. So I would imagine that's something like 35 degrees inclination. And if necessary, you can do a distortion. So if you might notice already, but on a Google screenshot from above the Earth, it's very likely that you don't get the correct angle directly from above. So it's a slight distortion. And with this value, for example, here I can set it to -9, then you can see it's slightly distortioned now. So in my case, it's perfectly fine like this. So set it to 0. And yeah, that's it basically. What you can do now is by clicking on certain areas, on certain modules, you can delete them. Or if you want to have them back, you just click again on the same area and they will appear again. If it has to be faster, or if there is a bigger area you want to delete, you can just press your control button, and then as soon as you go over your module array with your mouse, they will be all deleted. And this can be, of course, very interesting. For example, here on my screen, it looks like there is some pipe leaving the building, leaving the roof area. And of course, I don't want to build a module there. I want to leave some space. And this would be the way to do it. Yeah, so you can you can do this for the first area, let's say, and then you can click on next, and you can choose to leave it like that and save it and go to the next step, or you can say I want to add another module area. And in my case, the customer, for example, asks me to do the second roof area here, the east side. And very simple, like before, I can click the edges, do it like this, and do the same steps as before. I can click on next, select pitched roof, rotate the yellow line, say this is the bottom corner, go to next, and now the same module type will be copied to this second roof area. The inclination I would be able to change. In my case, I think it's the same. And then again, I have something on the roof here which I want to avoid having underneath the modules, and that I just delete the modules on those placements. So this would be my second area. And if I'm happy with the result, again, I can click on next. Before I click on save and exit, I quickly want to show you further down below, you have a full overview of what you are currently doing. So PV array 1, which module, the latitude, longitude, type, module length and width, and so on and so on. And also the same thing for the second PV array. So a full overview of what you just selected. And if you are now happy, you can click on save and exit. And ready you are for the next step. And the cool thing is now, out of this 2D programming that we just did, out of this sketch, the tool is now copying out the full data of this creation that we just did. And we have then now the PV array number 1 and the PV array number 2 with the full settings, with the correct module orientation, the number of modules, the module tilt, everything is then copied in, and I don't have to do anything else. I would be able to change it if I want to. And the last thing I would be able to do is maybe I want to add the west side again, so a third array, or I can also select this little button down below here with connect with. And as soon as I select this one, the tool is in the next step searching for a solution where one inverter is possible to connect both of the arrays that I have just designed, which is of course something I would want to. So in my case, with 15.2 kilowatt peak, this can be quite hard to deal with. So let's say, okay, I don't want to work with 10 modules on the east side. I want to work with 9. This would bring me down to 14.82 kilowatt peak, which is below 150% of overdimensioning. So I can use now a 10 kilowatt peak inverter, a Gen 24, for this system. And now if I connect with, I can click on enter, and we come to the inverter sizing parameter. Nothing major has changed there either. So you simply say, okay, the target ratio is exactly what I mentioned before. I want an inverter over dimension 200 and let's say 45% in order to be able to handle this kind of kilowatt peak. You would be also able to just take a closer look onto this gray underlaid area here. It's called best selection, and with the inverters in this list, he's doing the next step with the calculations. And you can just say, okay, I already know which inverter I want to use for that. Then you can say clear the selection and just go with one inverter, the best solution for my option here, the Gen 24 10 kV. because I already know this is the perfect solution. I can connect the battery to it. I just need one inverter. Perfect. So I just selected the Gen 10 kV and can click on show calculation. So with those parameters, it's now searching for the optimal solution and will probably bring me out now one perfect solution as expected. The Simogen 24 10 kV plus, 148% over dimensioning. Of course, it's a little bit bigger PV generator, but that's fine. And we can also see how he would select or connect it to our MPP trackers. So the first one would be connected with 2 strings of 15 modules, and the second one, the second MPP tracker, 1 string with 9 modules. Yeah, if I'm happy with that, I can click on next. If not, I would be able to change something with this little pen symbol, but in my case, that's perfectly fine. And I can click on next. Which brings me to the components under step 5, and I'm able here now to select what I want to have in my further calculations and what part do I want to skip. In my scenario, I want to have all of them inside my project, so that didn't change, and I can click on add. The tool already calculates me a recommended battery size. As before, I'm able to manually change that to, for example, an 11 kilowatt hour battery. The customer already asked me to select a little bit bigger battery. For the smart meter, nothing has changed. I simply have to add the quantity. So in my case, 1 smart meter TS in the 65 amp version is enough. And for the watt per lot, now we have a small change. Because we have 2 or even 3 electric vehicles, we need to make a decision how we want to charge them. Do we have only 1 watt per lot? I can stick with this solution and have all 2 of those electric vehicles selected on 1 watt per lot. Please be aware, if you just duplicate in the steps before where we have to select the electric vehicle, if you just duplicate the load profile, in the meaning of the second car should be charged at the exact same load profile as the first one, this wouldn't work, of course, when we want to connect it on 1 watt per lot. Because if one car is connected, the other one can't just parallel load on the same station. So if we have the same load profile, you would just delete the electric vehicle number 2, go to the second one and say, okay, the second one is connected here, and then it's fine. Because the electric vehicle number 1 is always priority number 1 in our scenario, and the second one wouldn't even be charged if it has the same load profile. If you have different ones, you can all select them on 1 watt per lot, and that's fine. Both of them would be charged. So in my case, I say the customer has 2 watt per lots, one 22 kilowatt and one 11 kilowatt version. Yeah, 2 electric vehicles, 2 watt per lots. That's not something uncommon, I would say. And for the ohm per lot, nothing major has changed. I simply have to select, is it connected single phase or 3 phase with this little button. And then we are finished with the components and can click on next. Which brings me to the profitability page where I have to set a few values in order for the report to be correct, or at least nearly correct. So the cost, for example, the cost for kilowatt hour of electricity, I set here some random value. Of course, it's very high speed changing these values. Also the feed-in tariff I have to set here in order to get a very good return on investment calculation. Let's say 20 cents. And then further down below, the total system cost of every component module. So what does the customer have to pay for this whole solution? So let's just say any random number, 28,000 euros, let's say. And don't be alarmed, the own plot has its own value for cost, effective cost, because it has its own return on investment calculation in the next step in the report. That's the reason why it's excluded there. Yeah, so that's it. We are now able to click on next and come to our final step, the report. So in the report, we have everything that we have set now visible, the picture that we have set beforehand, irradiance, grid, self-consumption, self-sufficiency. So nothing has changed here from before the update. But if we scroll down, the customer can already see, okay, energy profile or the energy flow of the whole system is pictured here in different colors, which is of course nice and a little bit better for the customer to understand what's going on. Yeah, we can scroll down here. Also here a rough yield comparison or yield expectation with also the energy consumption for electric loads, vehicle, own pallet. Then we come to the arrays where everything is listed down. So PV array number 1 with 9 modules, PV array number 2, and so on. Then further down below, there comes the component list. So the inverter with an effective link to the datasheet on our homepage if the customer is interested in more details of this product. Then string details can be quite important or interesting also in a sales conversation. How do you connect those onto the Gen24? Like in our case, with 2 arrays of 15 and 1 array of 9 on the second MPP tracker. What's the voltage levels, and so on and so on. Further down below, we come to all the other components like battery, smart meter, watt pilot, own pilot, the second watt pilot, the 22 kilowatt version, and that's it basically in all of its detail. One thing I forgot to mention, so I quickly go up at the very top. So you have the option now to add additional text fields if you want. So everything you type in here is visible then in the report for the customer. So you can send him here some details about what your thoughts are on this project, how you can do this or this problem. Yeah, that's up to you, of course, how you want to use it. And you can choose to write something in here. If you delete it, of course, it goes back to a gray underlaid area and you can close this window now. All right, so that's it. We are now on our final report and you would be able to then, I quickly scroll down here at the bottom, you can then download this version, you can send it directly to your customer via email, or you can yeah, do whatever you want with this finished project basically. Yeah, that's it. I quickly go on the main screen of this project. So here we can see now test number 2 with the picture, and then you have a little bit better visualization and order, a structural order, and you can find a little bit better which project with which picture I already did or I have to resend, and so on and so on. Yeah, so we are finished for today's webinar. I hope it was interesting for you and you are as excited as I am for these new features. As mentioned, these are just some visual testings for you in the test environment, but in the near future, you will be able to do this on your own, on the live session, on the live server, and check it out yourself. Yeah, in the meantime, if you have any questions, please again use the chat function and send in your questions. I would just turn off microphone and camera and join my colleague Thomas by answering your questions then right away. So again, I hope it was interesting and have fun testing it out as soon as it hits the live servers. As always, stay healthy and have fun doing the projects, doing the designs and the installations, of course. Hopefully we see each other again in the next few webinars and online trainings. And yeah, all that's left to say is goodbye and thank you for watching.